Welcome to Beyond the Games, your daily insight into Guernsey 2023. Proudly sponsored by SG Kleinwort Hambros Bank Limited, Guernsey branch and Jersey branch.
In his last Island Games campaign, Andy Bridgman lost the gold on countback. This time around, he's expecting some tight attritional racing and a very different experience in the Ilkas to the cutting-edge foiling yacht that he normally races. How did you first get into sailing? How old were you? What drove that?
So my dad always had a dream of sailing around the world, and he thought that it'd be fun to take us to a local sailing club one day when I was 9, and we just sort of went. It was sort of a summer thing for a couple of years, really. We just went once a month in the summer. They had a little programme, sort of 5 weekends a year, and then after 3 or 4 years, the local club like, why don't you try some of the local racing in the area, and sort of did that. So that was when I used to live in Staffordshire, and then sort of carried on doing it, and then just kind of did more and more and more, and then got into the British sailing team when I was in the juniors, and then sort of carried on. Didn't carry on into the senior British sailing team, but sort of carried on doing competitive sailing to a kind of similar level, and then and then came back to work in Guernsey, and then always wanted to get one of these foiling boats. I was lucky enough to have a friend let me have a go on one about 10 years ago, and they're just the most epic things. And this was before, foiling surfing and foiling windsurfing and foiling winging, and it was just kind of the first kind of small boat thing, I guess, on the water to have foils. Certainly, the foils as they are today, I think in the 70s there were some sort of weird surfy ones made out of like steel, but I think they were a bit different and not quite as performance. But yeah, so then when I was able to buy my first foiling boat, I got that 3 years ago. That was the Wasp, and now I've kind of got the Moth now as well. Obviously, I did my first Island Games. So I moved to Guernsey when I was quite young. Well, not quite young, but I guess 15, and then did my first Island Games a year or two later, and then I've done, I think this will be my 5th Island Games now.
What was your experience like at that first Games as well?
It's a really fun event, really. It's kind of like a week away. You're in a kind of camp with everyone, and that was the Isle of Wight, and just a lot of fun. Great fun event. Really, it's not the same as sort of doing full international regatta, so you have a little bit less pressure on you than that, but also the racing's still good. You still got to sail hard to do well, and it's great because the fleet's kind of got everything from, there are people at the top of the fleet who have kind of been in national teams, but then it kind of goes down the bottom of the fleet, where people that are just kind of there to improve and have a good time, so you get this really good mix, and it's just a nice event. And then obviously you get to mix with all the other sports too and watch those, so it's just really cool.
And can you take me through a little bit I guess there's some major difference in between what you're doing at the moment and what you're going to come back to do with the dinghy sailings. How are you going to adapt to that, and what do you have to do?
It's going to be hard. It's going to be very hard. I think there's some really good guys coming this year. So I don't know what my chances will be this year. I wouldn't be surprised if I'm not in the top 5, to be honest. I haven't been able to see as much training in that boat as perhaps I'd like to have done, but it's going to be, there is a lot of similarity. There's the thing you do in sailing where you kind of sit out the side of the boat and sort of do a sort of V-sit, and that's kind of, whoever can V-sit the hardest, called hiking, can sort of wins the races, basically, assuming that you've kind of set the boat off properly. If you haven't set the boat off properly, then you're pretty unlucky. You're not going to do very well, to be honest, if you haven't got all the flow over the sail and the hull working nicely. So those are the kind of two things, and then you've got to throw in that strategy and tactics. So it's going to be tricky, but you just got to jump in and just try and get the focus.
You're familiar with the waters as well and conditions. Is that going to be helpful?
It will be helpful. I mean, the Lasers, a very simple boat that was sailing in the Island Games, and it's not going to be the race course is quite a slow boat, but that means that everyone's really, really close together, and you get really tight racing. In terms of the conditions, I mean, there's obviously basic stuff there, which with the tides and how the wind patterns in the local waters, which definitely I'll have home advantage with. But there's so many factors in sailing that it's not necessarily that simple.
I guess how do you find the time to do the sailing that you do?
It's hard. You have to sort of do a lot of training when you can on the weekends and during work times. I've taken a bit of time off work anyway to for this summer to try and do as much sailing as possible. So that's obviously helping for this year. But in previous years, you've just got to, in the summer you can get out after work and in the evenings, and then obviously on the weekends, and then in the winter it's kind of only the weekends really, because it gets too dark and you can't really. It's not particularly safe to go sailing in the pitch black. So yeah.
And if you were going to describe sailing to people that haven't been out on the water, like complete novice, never been out there, how would you describe it?
Completely changeable from one day to the next. Is probably the way, and kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Attritional as well. It's regattas are over a whole week, and you've got that. They take your energy, and you've got to just stay. It's so hard to stay focused when it's boiling hot outside, or the next day it's raining heavily, and there's huge waves hitting you in the face, wave after wave, and wearing away your skin and your body, and you've got to just stay focused for the hours of the racing throughout the week.
Because there's some physical demands in it as well. It's not just a case of just sitting there in a boat, is it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's really physical. I mean, if you look at the top guys, they're as fit as any athlete that you would have seen, and so it's not just physical though. It's so much to it. If you can set your boat up properly and you know how to, the technique to sail the boat quickly, then you're probably going to be really quick, even if you don't have super fitness. But you're never going to be the best if you don't have fitness, because you have one of the ways to sail the boat and properly, and to kind of do the technique race after race and minute after minute, you have to be really fit to do that well. And the fitness really comes into fore when it's windy, because that's when the winds and the waves are kind of trying to smash you in ways you don't want to go, and you've got to literally throw your body against it.
And a big tactical side involved as well.
Yeah, really tactical. Strategy and tactics are a huge part of it, especially in the slower boats. Because you can't sail directly into the winds, you have to kind of either go left or right up the race course, or you can then tune that to a certain degree. I've got the middle, and then you could also got to factor in how other boats travelling. If there's 50 boats in a race, and you think it's probably best to go left because you think there's some tidal feature, or the wind's going to be a bit stronger over there, or the wind's going to change direction and put you in a better position if you go left. Then you see everyone going right, then you've got to kind of balance that with where you are relative to the boat, and you've got to kind of position yourself. It's always a lot of it's about positioning to not take a correct amount of risk, but not too much risk relative to where everyone is.
And what are your just going outside the games now? But what are your ambitions for the sport? Where would you like to take it?
I'm just trying to have as much fun as possible, really, and just do all these, do as many awesome big regattas as I can, and just enjoy it. Really, so that's kind of my aim. I don't know where I'd like to take it. I mean, there's obviously big events next year. I mean, the WOF Worlds next year in New Zealand. But the MOF's a really interesting boat because it's unlike the laser. So the Island Games is laser. Everyone has exactly the same boat, and it's ultimately just down to the sailor who wins. With the MOF, what you can do, there's like a kind of what's called a box rule. So the boat kind of has to fit in a box, and the same with the sail. But other than that, you can change so much on the boat, massive differences. And there's different builders who are releasing new types of boats, and you can can get quicker boats and slower boats. So if you buy a boat from 5 years ago, it's not going to be as quick as a new boat now. So potentially, getting a new boat and then doing them off-worlds in New Zealand next year might be a good one to do.
Yeah, and that sort of like innovation, and that must be quite exciting to be part of a sport that's developing all the time.
It's so. I mean, I've literally only been in this class now for a month. I got my MOF and I've been sailing it for a month now, and just the amount you learn, because everyone's got so many different bits of their testing, different bits of kit, and they're adjusting them, and then one day they'll sail with that bit of kit, and the next day they'll try a different bit of kit, or they'll adjust something. And most other boats, you don't have that freedom. And because of the freedom in this class, you can learn so much about how boats are set up and actually the adjustments, which actually I think is really relevant to any kind of sailing, really, because you can get, if you try this, then that works, and the amount of adjustment you can do, you learn so much so quickly. It's really, really cool. And there's guys, doing some really, literally cutting edge of the field. And a lot of this kind of stuff trickles down into other industries as well. And
I guess it shows as well that where so you can start off as a youngster sailing dinghies on the model yacht pond or whatever, but it then shows the progression that where this sport can take you, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it's about just kind of being comfortable in the boat, because it can be really scary being out in big waves, big winds, worried about sharks or whatever it is, getting lost in the sea. But a lot of it's just kind of taking your time, get out in the boat with it in a good kind of a safe environment, and then just enjoy just kind of sending the boat around in the windy weather, and then in the light stuff just kind of enjoy the sunshine and just kind of be a bit more tactic about it.
And did you have any real standout moments from your sailing career that you look back on at the moment?
I mean, some of the best bits is just getting to travel around to some really, really good places. I've got to go to Bermuda, Thailand, done regattas all over Europe, which is really, really cool. Just some really, really good venues. Standout moments. The last Island Games was pretty good. Came second in that one. Got the silver medal. Really close. It was on. It came down to count back in the end. So the guy got me because I think we had the same score in the end, but he had I think he won 3 races overall, and I won 2 races over the sort of 10 race regatta. So yeah. That was good games, but whether I'm even in the top 5 this time, we'll see.
Have you been
some good people there?
You've been keeping an eye on who's coming over and.
I think there's normally some good guys from Anglesey, from Isle of Wight, and up in Orland, Bermuda as well. But I mean, depending on what year it is, there could be good guys from anywhere. But it looks like there's going to be some good guys potentially, yeah.
Yeah, and just I guess just closing up, how do you sum up your feelings about coming back to Guernsey and racing for the games?
Oh, it's going to be great. It's going to be really cool having the Island Games in Guernsey. As I say, it's so much fun, and it's just a almost just a really nice atmosphere, really. It's really buzzing. Everyone, the town zone is just buzzing wherever you go, wherever it's been before. So I think it'll be nice to have that here.
Beyond the Games, proudly sponsored by SG Kleinwort Hambros Bank Limited, Guernsey branch and Jersey branch.